beeper, this is like a reflection of the prop angle of from full negative to full positive. And so I just beeped a little bit forward, and I'm doing that with the aft beeper here on the collective
L7,
right there.
L6,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And so, but really, like, I just used that to accelerate out of the hover and get going. But the reality is you're still a helicopter, and you can take a much bigger bite of the air with those main rotors than you can that pusher prop. So it's more efficient for me to push the nose over and accelerate out like a helicopter, and then add in the pusher prop as we get going.
Okay. That makes sense, yeah.
So I'm pushing the nose down. I got about 10 degrees nose down.
And you're bringing the collective up at that
Yep,
point?
I brought the collective just as necessary to go to the altitude that I want to go to.
And then it's just smooth flying.
Yeah, and now I'm just going to let go of the collective now because we're in high-speed flight and the collective is automated. And so now it flies a lot like an airplane where this is your power, and this is a rate command attitude hold system, I think. I mean, we've got different systems here, so we've got it in an attitude command system.
Yeah.
So in order to turn, you've got to hold the stick out of detent, but as soon as I let go of the stick, it's just going to go back to wings level, which is really nice for dark night or over water or some sort of situation like that. I can add in some more prop. We're holding level flight here.
And you're speeding up now to 80?
Yes,
and we're just
180 something knots. Is this the only flight control mode we have? Can we downshift to rate command or no? Here we go. More stability, less stability. Okay, so this is AFCS, which is considered our rate command system. So if I switch to PFCS, now it's or it was attitude, now it's rate. So now if I let go of the stick, it's going to hold the roll attitude that I put it in.
Okay.
And this is the mode of the aircraft that you're going to see us fly tomorrow that we'll be flying in. So we can fly there. But we're cruising along at 209 knots here. And see if we can get a little bit more out of it. And you know, depending on the aircraft, you know, it can be, you can spec one of these things out to do anywhere from 180 to 250 knots. So that's like what we were talking about before, that it's a matter of how much power you put in it, how big the prop is, and what you qualify the drivetrain to. So you can take the controls there, and you really can, like the collective is automated right now, so you get a nice roll sense there, and it's pretty maneuverable. Yeah,
very nice. And I can go up and down as well?
Yep. You can use pitch attitude to climb up and descend as necessary.
And it will automatically adjust the rotors and
the collective. It's going to adjust the collective for roughly a level flight condition.
That's very nice, Always feels fun flying in these simulators. You don't have this at home. That's very nice. So for this sort of mission profile that is set up for NGRC, you want to be fast, you want to be low, below the radar horizon.
Right.
And you just want to get to a station and then launch air launched effects or whatever you're set up with.
That's right. Like, and here it's a very nimble aircraft, and like you've got this rapid roll response that you can get out of it. So so if you come from the left and do a rapid turn to the right, you can get a sense of like how quickly you can roll in it, and that means you're going to have confidence to operate closer to the terrain and lower to the terrain, and all of a sudden there's wires there, and you can pull aft and climb up, and get a relatively, compared to other rotor helicopters and in particular tilt rotors, it's going to be a much faster response that you're going to get out of these very rigid rotors. That in large part, these rotors have to be rigid because they're operating in the opposite direction of each other, and so they have to be rigid to keep them separated. but that rigidity also provides amazing control power to you as a pilot, and reduced control response time.
It's really cool. I mean, the way you can fly this is slow terrain mask, pop up when you have to,
Right.
and then just stay safe at any other time. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it ends up being that here you're cruising around here at 200 knots at terrain flight altitude, and the reality is, like, you can operate at treetop level, I think, with somebody who's got the right experience level at 200 knots.
Yeah.
But if you go to 250 knots, gosh, I want like 20 or 50 feet above the trees, because I get uncomfortable at that speed. And there's a big difference in, I think, survivability as well. That if I'm 20 feet above the trees at 250 knots, like I still feel like I'm challenged, and I'm doing a lot to make sure that I stay clear of the trees and the terrain and the obstacles that are out there. But if you go to 200 feet above the trees and terrain, like, you could probably do 500 knots and have confidence that you've got enough altitude clearance. So it's pretty subtle that what is the right speed versus the altitude. And I feel like, if you can do 200 knots at treetop level, that's kind of the sweet spot of human capability and the cross section of the aircraft capability as well.
I mean, that brings up the whole discussion about automatic flight autonomy in these machines as well.
Right.
Of what has a human to do in this machine now, and what is the technology capable beyond that?
Right. Yeah, and I mean, this task of terrain flight and avoiding all of the obstacles, like a computer could do a really good job at that. One of the things I think that I do as a pilot, beyond just avoiding the obstacles and such, is, if you've got people in the back, you're a little concerned with the ride quality and not jerking them around unnecessarily. And so you're making decisions on not just avoiding all of the obstacles out there, but trying to make the ride quality such that everybody's not sick when they get where they're going.
I think they would be very unhappy with me right now.
Maybe.
That's a lot of fun. The last time I flew in a simulator with a helicopter was Microsoft Flight Simulator 98. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, let me try something.
Yeah, sure.
So I have the controls.
Yeah, you have control.
So we've got a lot of power in here, and so we'll just bring the nose up. And now we're climbing at 7,000, 8,000, almost 8,000 feet per minute, as we bled off some speed and grabbed a bunch of altitude. And now I'll bring the prop back the other way, and you'll see a maneuver in the demo where we do this, put a bunch of negative pitch on the prop. And, if you're an attack ship, and you're nose down, you get a real tight beaten zone of whatever your weapons are if you're firing like a gun or unguided rockets. And so the ability to have a lot of time to look at the target is nice. And then you just reverse the prop forward and peel off the target.
And that's the rear push, the pusher prop that
Right.
that provides
We're
that,
able to use it as a brake going downhill, so that we're not accelerating like crazy going down the hill as well.
Wow.
Let's get up to speed. I'll grab a little bit of altitude here as well. And like I said, we're not using the rotor so much for thrust. We're using the pusher prop for thrust, and we're using the rotor for lift. And so we end up not putting very much power to the main rotor in cruise flight, and it's fairly unloaded, which gives us the ability to rapidly command left and right turns and pitch attitudes. I'll get up a little bit more speed here, and then I'll do some maneuvering. So up here, you see a little pink chevron.
Yep.
I've asked for that much prop, but the system is not giving it to me because the prop gearbox torque is up at its limit. And so the faster we go, as that airflow goes through the prop and you get going faster, the torque goes down a little bit. And as the torque goes down a little bit, it's able to increase the pitch on the prop blades a little bit. You go a little bit faster, you get a little bit more inflow through the prop torque goes down a little bit, and then you get a little bit more pitch. But from the beginning, I asked for a lot of prop, and it's just given it to me as it can get it to me, based on the realities of those gears in the prop gearbox or the main rotor, wherever, have a limit, and you have to abide by that limit. And if they didn't have a limit, then you might be too heavy to have a machine that's flying, right? So let me try this. I don't know that I've not tried it in this sim here, but like that rotor is acting like a wing, right?
Yes.
And so, you know, it doesn't care if you're this way or the other way. And so you end up having to have, you know, if you wanted some capability like that, you have to have a gearbox and an engine and everything else that is happy in that sort of an attitude. But, you know, and if I roll into a steep turn and I pitch up and I'm like in a cloud and I get disoriented, well, then I can upshift to this AFCS and just let go of the controls, and it'll take me where it wants to. And now that's part of the automation, right? Like that's a piloted tool that if I'm going to fly in the clouds, I probably want this attitude command system. But if I'm going to fly terrain flight down low, in fact, now that you're in AFCS, go back down and fly terrain flight in this mode, and you'll see that like, it's probably not something you're going to like very much, because it's a little bit heavier and requires you to hold more force on the stick more of the time.
I'm noticing that, yes.
And it's really good for flying in the clouds or flying in the dark, but it's not so great for this terrain flight where you want to be agile, because it's, I don't know, I find it fatiguing.
It's a bit more fatiguing, yeah, I think so. But you have an optimized basic flight system.
Right, and so now you can just beep down with this, and you'll go back to what you started with before, and this is your sports car mode. This is where how I want to fly the machine when I'm trying to keep close to the earth and keep from getting shot down by some guy over there that's got a missile that is trying to get a bead on me.
I suppose one of the questions some viewers might have now is, since this flies more like an aircraft, how much is that going to change the training requirement for pilots? There's cables coming up, so I'm going to pop over those.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a fair question, right? And I think that the answer is, like, you can always fly this aircraft like a helicopter. Like right now, the collective is automated, but if you want to start a climb using the collective, go ahead, start a climb using the collective. Like, it's still there and it still works. You can always fly this like a helicopter. You're just a little less efficient, but there are times that you want to use the collective. For example, like we just talked about, your prop is going to have a torque limit. If I'm already on my prop torque limit because I'm going as fast as I can possibly go, and I want to go into a steep turn, I'm going to bleed off energy in that turn. I'm going to slow down or I'm going to descend. But if I have engine power available still, I can pull in the collective and put more pitch on my main rotor blades and use the main rotor to sustain my energy through the turn, and then let go of the collective as I get through the turn. Now, we could also automate some of that, such that if you go into a steep turn, the system automatically grabs a little bit of collective to help keep you from bleeding off too much energy.
And then, of course, one of the other questions that people might have is, if you use this as an aircraft, let's say, if you go back to the old mission profiles of the thing that we see from, you know, hiding behind trees, popping up, firing your missiles, popping back down, that's still fully available as well.
It is fully available. And I think one of the things you'll see when we fly the demo, we're going to hover out from parking and depart with our prop disengaged. And you'll be maybe 300-400 feet from the helicopter when we hover out, and you will be able to have a normal conversation with whoever's next to you. Like the noise is
Right.
the acoustic signature is quite a bit less. So, you know, if you're someplace where you're concerned about people hearing you or electronically detecting you, that you can disengage the prop and have a certain amount of reduced acoustic signature.
I think the one thing everybody thinks about when it comes to detectability is, of course, radar, because you have long range and you can lock onto something. But the acoustics in a helicopter that's more close in sometimes with the front lines are vitally important, aren't they? To mask that as much as you can. All right. Well, this is a lot of fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to the flight display, which you are going to fly.
I'm going to be the co-pilot tomorrow or Wednesday, and I'll be flying it. Ken and I will fly the demo flight.
Oh, Bill, I cannot wait. I would give you my hand right now, but I'm still. Let me put this a little bit higher so we don't crash.
There you go. And I'll tell you what. Let's make an approach here, and
yeah, sure.
And just so this is your prop beeper.
Yeah.
Just pull that back until the green or the magenta cue goes all the way to the back.
So all the way to the bottom of
there you go.
The indication.
And now pick out something on the ground to point the aircraft towards. Now the collective has a trigger on the bottom side, which is your trim release. And so as you slow down, you're going to need the to raise the collective.
Yeah.
And if you're unhappy with the response, this switch you can push up and get the attitude command, and you can push up again and it'll automate a hover for you.
Yeah.
So just bring the nose up a little because you're starting to pick up speed.
Yeah. What's my approach speed on this?
There's no such thing.
Okay.
Right? Like if you want to come in at 200 knots and slam on the brakes, do that. If you want to slow down because it's the first time you've ever done an approach on that, that's probably a good idea.
Okay. We also have to lower the gear.
Yeah, we sure do. So throw those down. We're below gear speed. And, you know, you get some experience with, you know, you're holding a few degrees nose low, but if you bring the nose up, we'll start decelerating more and lower the collective to keep from ballooning up.
It is fighting me a bit, the collective.
You got to trigger
under your of course,
speed.
yes.
Yep, you gotta pull that. There you go.
So much more sense.
All right, good. And then up on the collective. That's pretty good for a first try. All right, the other thing you can do is you can get rid of all of that negative pitch. And so I got rid of that.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to want to drag us backwards too much. And then you can just continue to lower the collective.
Yeah. We can walk away from this landing, so that's good.
Totally.
Awesome.
Nicely done.
Thank you. First helicopter landing in the radar. Awesome.
Well done.